So, mission complete and all that, huh? The Goliaths were wiped out, and we secured a route into enemy territory. Now we can...
9S,
Yeah?
thank you for uploading my data to the bunker.
I did that? Sorry, I don't remember. There wasn't a whole lot of bandwidth down there, you know? I probably only had enough time to back up your memories. Mine are only intact up to the point just before we rendezvoused.
I see.
Glory to mankind.
Glory to mankind.
So here we can see that despite what was told to us in the last cutscene, 2B's and 9S's alleged deaths, they're still alive here. Albeit with 9S only to a certain extent not remembering what happened before they met up. So this makes us question the permanence of death in this world with the androids, where 9S doesn't really make much of it. He just takes it as that he just died and that he's alive again. He reads through the logs and just goes on. 2B, on the other hand, expresses some gratitude to 9S for backing up her data, and then doubles down where at the end we can see her visibly angry at something about the situation, which I'll get back to a bit later.
From Earth, seeking refuge on the moon. 5204 AD. Humanity launched its counterattack, deploying an army of androids from a network of orbiting bases. But after more than a dozen large-scale descents upon the enemy, we still haven't managed to repel the invaders. That is why you, the Yorha forces, exist. To break this stalemate, once and for all. You are our ultimate weapon, and you must put an end to this war.
Understood, sir.
I wish you good hunting.
Glory to mankind! Glory to mankind!
Glory to mankind.
So I feel like this maintenance sequence is worth analyzing because it gaps the bridge between the character and the player. It makes them one. And it just ties in the game's mechanics into the sort of mechanics of the world where, well, when we go into the menu, we currently are going to change things about our perception. So we're going to change screen brightness, visibility, volume and such. So to me, this means that we're not just changing the game settings, we are quite literally changing our own perception. Which then also begs the question, because you can change difficulty and such in the game. So is the world only as dangerous and threatening as we perceive it? This is a thought I'd also like to get back to a bit later.
Are you there? Can you hear me? Hello? Alright, are we good now? Oh, thank you. Anyway, that takes care of the settings. Hold on. Your self-destruct permissions are missing. Wait a sec, we need to restore those. I could set it for you, but you should probably do it yourself. Regulations and all, you know? Okay, good. If things go wrong during an op, you may have to sacrifice yourself in order to finish it, so... Once you're finished making adjustments, you can go ahead and close this out. Morning.
"9S,
The commander's put me in charge of your maintenance, ma'am. That means I'll be performing regular checks on you from now on.
I see.
Oh, don't worry. We 9S models are the best around, you know. Though I suppose we're not exactly known for our modesty.
9S.
What is it, ma'am?
Stop calling me ma'am.
Huh?
There's no need to be so formal.
All right. If you say so. Oh, I almost forgot. The commander was calling for you. We better go see what's up, man. 2B.
So here again we have 2B specifically telling 9S to not call her ma'am, so he's forgotten what she told him before. And owing to that, 2B was visibly frustrated with this even before. To me that says that this is not the first time that this has happened. And considering how in the previous cutscene, after saluting each other, she just stood there clenching her fist angrily. To me that says that this is definitely not the first time this has happened. And considering the anger, it just makes me wonder how many times has this exact situation already happened exactly.
Ah, 2B. Maintenance finished?
Yes, Commander.
You detonated your black box in order to defeat the enemy. Bold, but risky. Try not to be so reckless next time.
Understood.
I know you're fresh out of maintenance, but I have another mission for you. I need you to head to the surface, rendezvous with the Resistance, and do some recon.
Doesn't Yorha have a dedicated resistance contact already?
We haven't been able to get in touch with them, so we'll need you to look into that as well.
Understood.
The surface? That means we'll be getting flight units, huh? Better head for the hangar. Usually we can't get near flight units. They're way too expensive for us grunts. Too bad they can't mass produce these things yet. The hangar's up ahead. Let's go. Hey, 2B. Why do you think they sent a combat model like you to a recon job? If all they want is intel, we scanner models are built for that kind of thing.
Orders are orders.
All right.
So here we're in another flight section much akin to the first one in the game, and for the sake of keeping this analysis concise, I will cut it down to the most important parts. So here we get some new weapons, we fly in, we cleared out the path before in the previous mission, so yeah, to the landing. So here after landing we can see that we are in quite a different environment very heavily contrasting the sort of heavy industrial area. Because back there, I don't think that there's many people that can really relate to that kind of environment. Whereas seeing a city is something much closer to something that almost all of us are going to be able to directly relate to, if not at least indirectly. And seeing this sort of familiar structure to all of us being overtaken by nature is a bit of a jarring sight for everyone, as we expect to see a lot of concrete buildings and a lot of people roaming the streets, whereas we see that it's basically been reclaimed by nature. And it definitely makes me wonder and imagine what would my home, what would my city look like if overtaken like this. It's definitely both a pretty scary but also a pretty interesting thought. So here we see a new feature come into play, that being, well, regarding the death of other players, where we can find their bodies littered around the world. And here we're given a choice as to what to do with the body. We can first pray for the body, which will give the player some extra health, restore their health, and give them some kind of boost. Or we can just choose to skip that. Then we choose whether to retrieve the body, which will give us some boosts based on the chips that they were using, or we can choose to bring the body back to life and have it follow us around. So immediately we're given the choice whether we want to help the other player. So to me this is reminiscent of, well, a game that came out 2 years later, being Death Stranding, where you were, well, very encouraged to help other players. The game was quite strongly about solidarity, and I feel that at least in essence this is what might have inspired Kojima to make Death Stranding the way he did. But other than that, you're also given the option either way to cannibalize the body in some way. It is either to let the body rest, yet take what it has, or, well, you take away its ability to rest by bringing it back to life to essentially fight for you, whether willingly or not.
Proposal: eliminate enemies in vicinity and restore access point immediately.
So here the game presents us with the access point, which is basically explained as like a 3D printer. Well, first of all, what it does is it reveals map information to the player, so you know how to navigate the world better. But this is essentially one of the places where the character's data is uploaded, so in case their current iteration is destroyed or killed, the data from them is uploaded and then reconstructed into a new body, essentially allowing them to live even past death. And that also brings me back to the question of the permanence of death in this world, whether or not it actually has any consequences beyond, well, being just some kind of nuisance that temporarily halts progress. I'll skip forward here because all I do is just some exploration, some combat with the locals. The only thing that we really find out is that not all machines are hostile, that it's sort of an anomaly, that some of them seem to be passive. But other than that, we're making our way over here to the rebels camp, which are still on Earth. And it's not really clear to us who these rebels are. We're just told that they're rebels. They might be machines, they might be androids, they might be human, for all we know. It's unlikely that they're going to be human, though, as we were told before that the humans are all on the moon.
So this is the resistance camp, huh? We should probably go talk to their leader first thing.
You're number 2.
You know about 2B?
Yes, well, the bunker told me to expect you. My name is Anemone. I'm the leader of the android resistance that controls most of this territory. You must be the new scouts we heard about. Well, I'm sure my people will have plenty of information for you. Please feel free to ask them anything you like.
So from here on, we're given a couple of choices as to what we want to do. But I'll probably skip through most of it and just give a summary because a lot of the stuff is unvoiced. I'll still point out some certain things along the way, however. So, from the interaction with Anemone, I'm not sure whether or not she already knew 2B prior due to her reaction. And I feel like there's two ways that I can possibly interpret it. One being that she already knows 2B, and she, for some reason, dreads her. And number two being that she doesn't know 2B, she only heard of her. She was expecting someone else, and she now dreads seeing number two. She says it in a way that it doesn't seem like she personally knows 2B. She does not call her by 2B's preferred way, 2B. She says number two. Maybe I'm just reading a bit too much into this. I feel like the other stuff is more important at the moment. Maybe this will play a bigger role in the future, so I'd say keep a little note in that, but don't hang on it too much for now. The weaponsmith gives us a basic fetch quest, go find him some tools so he can fix his weapon kit, so that he can actually make and upgrade weapons for us. The doctor gives us some information about the world and ourselves. She tells us that she sells parts for android bodies, specifically chips. She sells parts for the pods. She tells us how we can improve ourselves, like physically. And she also gives us some advice or options for the player rather than the character. Stuff like if you're feeling motion sick, how to change the settings, etc. So, to me, this already bridges the gap between the player and the character even further. And it changes the settings that only the player is able to see, and further solidifies them as the sort of quantum mechanics and rules of this world as well. Especially the chips, we can do some certain things with them, which I will experiment with in a future episode. And we'll see that we're even able to get an ending by just playing around with the chips. Other than that, she also mentions that the other way to improve ourselves is by gaining experience points. And I feel like this can be also taken literally as you collect experience points, which levels you up, but to me that also means that as the player will play the game, he will learn the mechanics of the game, learn how to play it, he will gradually improve like that through gaining experience. Finally, there's the supply trader who sells us parts, recovery items and such, and he gives us a quest because he would be able to sell us plug-in chips, but the problem is that he does not have the necessary materials, and he tells us that he's not able to obtain them because of a broken leg. So if we're able to get the materials for him and the parts to fix his leg, then we'll be able to help him out quite a bit, and that he will start selling us these plug-in chips. And so we move on to do the quests, and we'll come back then. As far as the quests go, they're just basic fetch quests. Go out into the wild, fight some enemies, collect their parts, bring them back.
This must have been quite a city once upon a time. Too bad vegetation's claimed most of it now.
Operator 60 to 2B. It is time for your regularly scheduled contact.
This is 2B. Nothing to report.
Good to hear. Say, how's the weather on Earth today? Good?
It's fine. Does that question have anything to do with our operation?
Not really. I just figured it might feel nice to have some good weather.
Feeling nice has no bearing on completing missions.
That is so like you, 2B. Anyway, talk to you later.
So here again we see 2B's formalness when it comes to missions and just overall demeanor. And for me this is a moment that shows that it's not just 9S that wishes to express emotion and such, but that it's more characters, because 2B is right about one thing, was that part of that conversation was completely pointless, like the weather would have no effect on the mission, but it was just the operator trying to be friendly and kind, just trying to open up some small talk. So this makes me believe that it's not just 9S who does not completely abide by this rule. Maybe it's everyone bar a few exceptions. Maybe the rule doesn't even exist. Or it's a rule that was enforced in the past but is no longer something the androids care about anymore.
Chores are a real pain in the butt, huh?
The Resistance is a valuable ally to Yorha.
By helping them, we also help ourselves. So no, I don't think they're a pain.
Yeah.
So, this tells us something, but not very much about the Resistance. Like, we can see that they are androids as well. So, them being on the Earth might suggest that they are deserters, but since they are called allies, that is unlikely in my eyes. What I think they are is maybe not the same generation of androids as the ones we play as, because it's possible that the androids already existed before the aliens invaded Earth, but that they are just either older models, or that they are models that already existed on Earth, simply stayed, hid away when the humans fled, and that they simply were able to muster up the strength to fight back once the special androids from like the space station started attacking again. As far as the mission goes, it's just the same as the other one: kill some robots, collect some parts, so I will skip forward to the camp where we hand in the missions. I'll start with the weapons trader. He is grateful for the parts, and he presents us with a question. He's a bit doubtful of himself. He wonders if his weapons actually help the actual effort, or if they just make his friends die faster. So I would interpret this in two ways. The first way being that he doubts himself in making poor weapons that just cause his friends to get killed, but then the second option is that he doubts the overall meaning of the war, whether actually putting his friends into battle just causes them to die over a pointless cause. You also might have noticed that I don't have the heavy weapon that I had before. I was hoping that by unlocking his store that I would be able to buy it back, but there's still no sign of it, and I don't really feel like buying any of the weapons that he currently has, so I'm going to still keep an eye out for it. We then talk to the supply trader, who we hand the quest in. He's happy with the materials, and we ask him if he's able to at least use them to repair his leg, to which he replies that no, he's not able to, or better said, he doesn't want to. This is because, as he says, he's already swapped out every part in his body over 100 times except for his leg. He says that his leg is the only fully original part, and he questions whether if he would even swap out the leg, would he still be original? Would he still be himself? And I think that this is meant to make the character question if they are even themselves still, or if they are someone completely different from the person on the previous mission. Because after all, we did receive a completely different body now. Now, that's also a good question for us, because humans as well, over our lifespan, our cells, they get damaged, they regenerate, they swap themselves out many, many times over. Albeit at different rates, but on average, your body replaces all of its cells once every 7 years, roughly. 7 to 10 years. So it's not instant. It's not like that 7 years pass and you suddenly change all of your cells, like putting a new t-shirt or skin on. It's just that over those 7 years, every single cell in your body changes, to the point that technically you are not in the same body as you were 7 years ago. Although we know that that is not true, because we still perceive ourselves as the same person. We still are ourselves. Or at least we think ourselves as such. But what I feel like the game is trying to hint at here is that it's not the body that matters, it's the mind that's behind it. Because if we think about ourselves, our personality, while the face is important, in the end it's not just the face that people remember, it's the person behind that face that really will leave a mark on most people, that will really define who you are. But if we go by what the game is saying, it's the body that's important. So 2B is no longer herself now. I wonder if there was at least some kind of remnant in the world that we could pick up to actually make it true that she would be her original self. Before I go to the desert area, as suggested by an email that I received, I should go check out the place where I died, because I might possibly find some useful items, learn something interesting. So here we can see that this is the place that I died before, and here I actually find the second sword, the stronger one that I was looking for, that I couldn't find before. We also find the original body that we can collect all of the items from, basically completing what I said before about being able to find something of our original self. Now, the way that I would personally interpret this would be about facing one's own death, because whenever, like, humans are faced with death, whether our own or someone else's, it is, well, simply something tragic to deal with for everyone involved or anyone who might be faced with that death. And it is definitely something sort of weakening, which could be seen as losing one's own strength, as 2B losing the sword, and only once she is able to come face to face with that previous iteration, with the place where she died, with the fact of her death, she's able to get the new outlook on life that someone faced with death would simply need to continue, to go on, and we are able to thus regain that weapon, that strength that was once lost. But other than that, that is the end of the episode. In the next episode, we will continue on into the desert, see how the story progresses. The videos might slowly get shorter over time as there will be less and less stuff to analyze, or I will just be repeating myself more and more. With that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.